Every week, I provide access to authentic documents from closed archives. There is no artistic fiction here. If you're watching this, it means the material has already breached the system. We assume no responsibility for what you learn. Subscribe. Knowledge is irreversible. Nicholas sat across from me, downing one drink after another. He always did that when he was nervous. And right now, he had every reason to be. Our daughter Annie had completely lost her mind. She fell head over heels for some good-for-nothing guy, and it was like she'd lost all common sense overnight. Everything was slipping through her fingers. She stopped thinking about school, forgot about studying, and had zero desire to work. "I'm getting married soon. I'll have a baby and then we'll see," she'd say. Her father, Nicholas, tried everything to influence her. He yelled at her until he was hoarse, took the belt to her, and even locked her in the shed at night. But it was useless. Annie was in love up to her ears with the boy from the next street over. Johnny, they called him. I still don't understand what she saw in him. He was scrawny, not much to look at, drank too much, and didn't want to work properly. All he did was strum his guitar and sing songs. Though he was talkative and cheerful, I suppose that's why she fell for him. Our Annie, by the way, was a smart, beautiful girl, straight A's in her school records. She helped us around the house, played sports, and dreamed of going to the city for college. And now? I'm in love, I can't help it. We raised her, helped with homework, gave her everything. And it all went down the drain. She'd have kids with this loser and stay stuck in our little dead-end town forever, raising livestock and working the garden from dawn till dusk. There wasn't much else to do around here anyway. "Nina, where did we go wrong?" my husband asked me. God only knows. Now all we could do was pray. We sat in the kitchen for about another hour. Finally, Nicholas couldn't take it anymore and went out to look for Annie. It was already 11 and she still wasn't home. 15 minutes later, a disheveled Annie walked through the door. I looked at this whole mess with deep sadness and cursed the day we ever introduced our girl to that boy. "March to your room and don't show your face until morning," Nicholas barked. "But Dad," Annie started crying. "Out of my sight." I tried to intervene. "Nicholas, come on." But he was firm. "She's dancing to his tune. Doesn't want to study, doesn't want to go to the city. And you know why? Because in the city you actually have to work. Here he just scrapes by and lives off his parents. Who needs him there? He fed our stupid girl a bunch of nonsense, and she's happy to stay." "Maybe it'll work out," I sighed. "Maybe she'll change her mind after the first baby." "By then it'll be too late," Nicholas muttered, throwing up his hands. What the hell are we supposed to do? The next morning I got up before dawn. It was around 4 o'clock. When I stepped outside, the cow wasn't going to milk herself. After that came breakfast, feeding the chickens, working in the garden, cleaning the house, the same endless routine day after day. My foolish Annie had every chance to leave this place, but she threw it all away. I fried eggs, boiled the kettle, sliced vegetables, and put a jug of fresh milk on the table. Nicholas ate with gusto, stuffing his cheeks. But our daughter was in no hurry to come down. "Ugh, Mom, are these eggs rotten?" she asked, wrinkling her nose as she held a piece on her fork. "Watch your tongue. I just took them from the hen house. If you don't want eggs, at least drink some milk or eat the vegetables." Annie poured herself a glass of milk, brought it to her lips, and before she could take a sip, she clamped her hand over her mouth. She tried to run to the bathroom but didn't make it. She vomited right on the floor. "What the hell?" Nicholas roared. "She probably just got food poisoning. It happens," I said. "I felt sick myself this morning after the neighbors gave me some cheese." I shared it with Annie, as if we don't have enough food of our own. I quickly cleaned everything up. After Nicholas left for work, I went straight to my daughter's room without knocking. "Do you have something to tell me?" I asked right away. She was sitting on the bed, staring at one spot. I knew that look. It meant she was guilty. "Mom, forgive me," she whispered. Tears filled my eyes. Our pride, our hope, our only beloved daughter, pregnant at 17. She had just finished school. What would people say? Taking her for an abortion was dangerous. We had tried for years to have more children and failed. If we lost this first grandchild, she might never have others. We weren't getting any younger. There was no other choice. She had to give birth. I went back into her room later. "Whose is it?" "Johnny's, of course." "Fine. I'll go talk to his parents. Stay home." As soon as I said that, Annie perked up. She jumped from the bed and hugged me tightly. I had no choice. I got ready and walked to the neighboring street. Johnny's mother, Rachel, opened the door almost immediately. "Hi, Rachel." "Hi, Nina. Come in. The kettle just boiled." "I'm here on business. About Annie." "Don't worry." She waved her hand. "I've been keeping an eye on them." The smile disappeared from her face when she saw my expression. "What happened?" "We're going to have a grandchild." Rachel gasped, then screamed for her son. Johnny got an earful from both of us, but there was no way out now. Annie was pregnant. It was time for a wedding. To everyone's surprise, Johnny actually started working. He showed up on time, didn't slack off. Maybe there was still hope. Meanwhile, Annie was overjoyed. The local nurse confirmed the pregnancy. We wondered whether it would be a boy or a girl. The wedding took place when Annie's belly was already quite big. We had to order a special dress. It was loud, fun, lots of people. But as they say, there's always a fly in the ointment. My grandmother came to the wedding looking gloomy. Everyone was laughing and chatting, but she stared into emptiness and barely spoke. "Grandma, why are you sitting there like you've seen a ghost?" I asked. "It's bad for your Annie, very bad. Take her to the doctor. Something about her belly doesn't feel right." "Come on, she's pregnant." "No, Nina, that's not a pregnancy. I swear on the Lord. Take her to the doctor before it's too late." I knew arguing with her was pointless, so I agreed. That was the end of our conversation. Annie's belly grew not by the day, but by the hour. And as it grew, her health got worse and worse. She spent most of her time in bed, lost her appetite, and kept fainting. Johnny's family was constantly around her, and we visited as often as we could, bringing food, clothes, vitamins. But she kept getting weaker. I still remember that terrible evening. Rachel ran over to our house, shaking all over, her face white as a sheet. She wanted to speak but couldn't get the words out at first. "Rachel, what's wrong? Tell me." "Your daughter hasn't eaten since yesterday. She fainted, and then in the evening, her stomach started hurting so badly she couldn't straighten up or bend over. I called the ambulance." As soon as I heard that, I sat down on the bench. Rachel stayed with me until late at night. Nicholas, as luck would have it, had gone to the next village to see his brother. We sat together until dark. I drank 50 grams of vodka for courage and went to bed, hoping to sleep until morning. But that didn't happen. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of floorboards creaking. I thought Nicholas had come back. "Nicholas, is that you?" Silence. A few seconds later, the creaking came again. I grabbed a heavy vase from the table and went toward the sound. But the vase wasn't needed. There was no one in the room, yet the floors kept moving under my feet. I screamed, jumped out the window in my nightgown, ran to the summer kitchen, locked myself in, and waited for my husband. From the window, I saw the lights in our bedroom turning on and off by themselves. It was terrifying. I didn't sleep a wink until morning. Only when I saw the big wooden cross that had hung over the door lying on the floor, still nailed to the doorframe, did I dare leave my hiding place. I quickly cleaned up and ran to the church to see the priest. He gave me holy water and told me to pray every day, put candles in every corner, and said he would come by soon. When I asked what it was, he replied, "This is a sign of coming trouble. But read your prayers and the trouble will leave your house. Everything will be all right." I did as he said. I didn't tell Nicholas. He doesn't believe in God or the devil. I quietly put the icons back, hummed the cross, and followed all the priest's instructions. The next day, Nicholas came home from work and said we were going to the hospital to see Annie. We had no phone at home, so we drove with a neighbor to the district center. I had a bad feeling even before we left. In the reception area, it got even heavier. "Hello, we're here for Annie Abrams," I said to the young nurse. Her eyes widened. "Wait here, please. Room 5 by the window." We exchanged glances with Nicholas. "I have a bad feeling," I whispered. "Quiet, don't panic too soon," he snapped. When we entered the room, Annie was lying facing the wall. I sat beside her and gently touched her shoulder. "Mom, I'm not sleeping." "Hi, sweetheart. Why didn't you greet us and Dad?" She stayed silent and buried her face in the pillow. "What's wrong? Talk to your parents," said the elderly woman in the next bed. "They found a tumor. They won't operate," she added sadly. I barely remember what happened next. The doctor was late. I was on the verge of a breakdown. The young nurse ran in with him and gave me a shot that knocked me out. When I came home, I collapsed into bed and fell asleep. We brought Annie home a few days later. It still didn't fit in my head. There had never been a baby in her belly. It was a huge tumor that couldn't be removed. The doctors gave her a month and a half, maybe 2 at most. The house fell silent. All joy and laughter disappeared. Nicholas and I tried to prepare ourselves mentally for the inevitable. Annie didn't fool herself with false hope. She was getting ready to die. One afternoon, while I was cooking lunch, I heard her desperate cry, "Mom! Mom!" I thought the worst and rushed to her room. "What is it, daughter?" "Someone is standing in the yard. Please go look." I immediately went outside but saw no one. "You were mistaken, sweetheart." "But someone was there." "Well, they left then." The next morning, Nicholas and I were sitting at the table when Annie's scream made us jump. She was shrieking so loudly it seemed the windows might shatter. "Daughter, what's wrong?" Nicholas asked in fear. "Dad, Grandma Glasha is standing there." "What Grandma Glasha? She's been dead for 10 years. "She's in the closet." Annie pointed frantically at the wardrobe. Nicholas calmly walked over, opened the door. Nothing. Everything was in its place. "Go back to sleep, sunshine. Mom and I will call the doctor," he said in a steady voice, though pure horror showed in his eyes. From that day on, the nurse started visiting more often, but Annie kept seeing things ordinary people couldn't. Most often they were our dead relatives or neighbors from the town. With each passing day, they came closer. In the final week, they began sitting on her bed. I understood our little girl had very little time left. One windy evening, I asked Nicholas, "How much longer do you think she has?" "I don't even want to think about it. Let's try to sleep." "Mom, Dad," Annie called weakly. We both got up and went to her room. Of course, there was no one there. "Daughter, there's no one here. It's just the 3 of us." "They say I have to go with them," she whispered almost soundlessly. Nicholas and I looked at each other in terror. We both understood that tomorrow we would be left alone in this house. "Mom, Dad, Grandma put her hand on my stomach," Annie breathed with her last strength. I don't remember running for the nurse. By the time I returned, my daughter was gone. Nicholas sat on the floor with his head on the bed, inconsolable. Our relatives came to support us. I lay for days staring at the ceiling. Nicholas was neither alive nor dead. He wandered around the house like a shadow. 9 days later, he turned to the bottle. I didn't recognize my husband. I thought we would go through this grief together, but no. As they say, when trouble comes, open the gates. A month and a half later, Nicholas began drinking himself into delirium tremens. I didn't scold him. I understood he was weaker than me. He was a man, but he couldn't bear the blow that had fallen on us. I visited Annie's grave, looked after the livestock, kept up with the housework. Life slowly returned to its usual rhythm. But the house was no longer a home. Looking at my husband was painful. He had grown thin, aged 10 years. The bottle never left his side. He drank even more than before. That's when I realized I had to do something. I went to the local healer, but she wouldn't even let me in the door. "Go away," she said. "There's nothing I can do here." I spat in her direction and went home. Why she turned against me, I still don't understand. One ordinary day, I got up at 5 in the morning as usual and went to milk the cow. As soon as my feet touched the floor, I heard a loud crash. The icon that stood in the red corner had fallen. At first, I wanted to run to the healer again, but then I stopped and took a deep breath. "Just the wind," I told myself. "Everything's fine." Still, doubt had already taken root inside me. I drove to Nicholas's relatives in the neighboring village. They gave me some charmed water and promised it would cure his drinking. I added it to his tea every time and prayed morning and evening. At first it seemed to help. He started drinking less. One evening I went to bed earlier than usual, exhausted. I fell asleep like the dead. In my dream, my daughter called to me, stretching out her hands. "Mom, come to me." "You're dead, get out of here, go away," I screamed. Suddenly her face began to change. I no longer recognized my girl. Her eyes filled with red, her mouth stretched into a predatory grin, and the skin around her eyes darkened. "I'll take him anyway," she said in a voice that wasn't hers. I woke up in terror. The window was open and banging in the wind. For the next few days, everything was quiet. No nightmares. I kept up with the housework and watched over Nicholas. He drank only a couple of times a week now. But at the end of that week, he got blackout drunk again. When I found him passed out in the living room, I didn't wake him. I went to bed around 2 in the morning, tossing and turning. Then something cold touched my forehead. I opened my eyes and froze in horror. My daughter was sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked exactly as she had in life, but her skin was deathly pale. "What do you want?" "I've come for Dad." "Go to hell, get out of here," I screamed. She stood up silently and vanished into thin air. With deepest horror, I realized this was no dream. "Nicholas!" I cried. Silence. "Nick!" No answer. On shaky legs, I went to the living room. Nicholas was still lying on the couch, but white foam had gathered at the corners of his mouth. I touched his neck. No pulse. His skin was cold as ice. Annie had taken him. I buried my husband next to our daughter. The house was now completely empty. For several weeks, I lived like a shadow, feeding the animals, tending the garden, staring at the walls. Then one night I heard footsteps again. The lights flickered. The cross fell once more. That's when the final, most terrible truth hit me. There had never been any tumor. The doctors were wrong, the priest was wrong, even the healer was wrong. Annie's pregnancy was something ancient and hungry that had attached itself to our family the day she met Johnny. It fed on our love, our hope, our future. It took her, then Nicholas, and now it was looking at me. I sat down at the kitchen table, poured myself a full glass of vodka, and for the first time in months, I smiled bitterly. The next morning, the neighbors found the house empty. The cow was lowing, the chickens unfed. On the table lay a short note in my handwriting. "They came for me too. Don't look for us." No one ever saw me again. Some say on quiet nights you can still hear guitar strings and a girl's laughter near the old abandoned house, followed by heavy, hopeless silence. One ordinary day, I got up at 5 in the morning as usual and went to milk the cow. As soon as my feet touched the floor, I heard a loud crash. The icon that stood in the red corner had fallen. At first I wanted to run to the healer again, but then I stopped and took a deep breath. "Just the wind," I told myself. "Everything's fine." Still, doubt had already taken root inside me. I drove to Nicholas's relatives in the neighboring village. They gave me some charmed water and promised it would cure his drinking. I added it to his tea every time and prayed morning and evening. At first it seemed to help. He started drinking less. One evening, I went to bed earlier than usual, exhausted. I fell asleep like the dead. In my dream, my daughter called to me, stretching out her hands. "Mom, come to me." "You're dead. Get out of here." "Go away," I screamed. Suddenly, her face began to change. I no longer recognized my girl. Her eyes filled with red, her mouth stretched into a predatory grin, and the skin around her eyes darkened. "I'll take him anyway," she said in a voice that wasn't hers. I woke up in terror. The window was open and banging in the wind. For the next few days, everything was quiet. No nightmares. I kept up with the housework and watched over Nicholas. He drank only a couple of times a week now. But at the end of that week, he got blackout drunk again. When I found him passed out in the living room, I didn't wake him. I went to bed around 2 in the morning, tossing and turning. Then something cold touched my forehead. I opened my eyes and froze in horror. My daughter was sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked exactly as she had in life, but her skin was deathly pale. "What do you want?" "I've come for Dad." "Go to hell. Get out of here," I screamed. She stood up silently and vanished into thin air. With deepest horror, I realized this was no dream. "Nicholas!" I cried. Silence. "Nick!" No answer. On shaky legs, I went to the living room. Nicholas was still lying on the couch, but white foam had gathered at the corners of his mouth. I touched his neck. No pulse. His skin was cold as ice. Annie had taken him with her. I buried my husband next to our daughter. The house was now completely empty. For several weeks, I lived like a shadow, feeding the animals, tending the garden, staring at the walls. Then one night I heard footsteps again. The lights flickered. The cross fell once more. That's when the final, most terrible truth hit me. There had never been any tumor. The doctors were wrong. The priest was wrong. Even the healer was wrong. Annie's pregnancy was something ancient and hungry that had attached itself to our family the day she met Johnny. It fed on our love, our hope, our future. It took her, then Nicholas, and now it was looking at me with the same cold, patient eyes. I sat down at the kitchen table, poured myself a full glass of vodka, and for the first time in months, I smiled bitterly. The next morning, the neighbors found the house empty. The cow was lowing, the chickens unfed. On the table lay a short note in my handwriting. "They came for me too. Don't look for us." No one ever saw Nina again. Some say on quiet nights near the old abandoned house, you can still hear faint guitar strings, a girl's laughter, and then heavy, hopeless silence that swallows everything.